Good morning. So in preparing for our presentation, we wanted to get advice straight from you, the inventor and the
We had a lot of help. We all did it together.
the key ingredient to the success of our program. What do you feel like are the aspects that are most important to making this at-risk team and this approach to case managing students successful?
I think the first thing is we all should basically be able to agree on the premise that no student gets to high school without a desire to graduate, nor does any parent or guardian wish for their child to get this far and suddenly not graduate. They may say they don't want to graduate, they may say it really doesn't mean that much to them, but I think most of us can accept the premise that they do want to graduate. And I think it's incumbent that we do everything we can to help them complete their journey, because one of the terms that I use frequently is look at the body of work. In most cases, we're talking about a 10, 11 plus year body of work when these kids get to their junior, senior years. And we have to take all that into consideration. I tell juniors and seniors all the time, and I tell parents this all the time. You've done a lot more right than you've done wrong if you've gotten your child this far and this close. So what we need to do is come up with a plan, and which sometimes involves intensive case management, to see if we can help these kids and these parents finish that journey.
So secondly, what do you feel like is important to do in terms of creating teacher buy-in for the program, especially when we sometimes implement interventions that are creative and out of the box, and sometimes teachers can be resistant to that? How can others help?
Well, I think that I've always told my assistant principals with whom I've had the pleasure of serving that every process should be transparent and inclusive. And if we have an at-risk team, which if you're looking at MTSS is a tier 3 initiative, make sure, number one, that your at-risk team meetings are transparent, meaning that anyone can attend. You have a core group of people who are going to be in those meetings. You have your counselors, you have your school social worker, you have your school nurse, you have your communities and schools representative, you would hopefully have someone from Exceptional Children, and you have to have an administrator. But I think it's incumbent that we include, invite, and welcome teachers into these meetings, because I think frequently when teachers begin to understand the why a student isn't doing homework, or the why a student may be late the first period, or the why a student is sleeping in class, for the most part, there are legitimate underlying reasons for these things. And I think if we include teachers in that process from the get-go and include them in this process, then I think you're going to buy in a lot quicker, because most of these kids are at risk. I was an at-risk student. I moved out of my parents' home in October of my senior year because I didn't like the rules. And I struggled mightily to finish high school. It's not that I didn't have my parents' support. I didn't want it. I was very rebellious. But had I not had a history teacher in high school my senior year, I wouldn't have made it myself. So I think I have a certain empathy with these kids. And I think we have to all understand that we're all not cut from the same cloth. And I think the other thing we have to understand is at-risk is a moving target. Just because you have a kid that's taken 4 AP classes and 2 honors classes his or her junior or senior year doesn't mean that there can't be a death in the family, a divorce, the loss of a job and income, a displacement from a home. Suddenly that child is just as at risk as the kids that we more traditionally associate with that category.
Thank you. And lastly, in terms of our audience being school counselors, if they kind of like what they see today and feel like this program could be effective at their school, what advice would you give them to help sell this program to their administration?
I think the first thing you talk, the rate is important. Nobody's going to sit here and say the graduation rate isn't important. But I think with our group, any at-risk team I've ever served on, we've never talked about the rate. And I know, Ms. Moore, we sit in these at-risk meetings together. We never mention cohort graduation rate. We never do. Mm-hmm. I think our feeling is that if we intensively identify and case manage and work with those kids who probably need a little bit more assistance than others, the rate's simply going to take care of itself. I think at the end of the year, if we're talking more about the kids we lost than the rate, then we did it for the right reasons. And I think that's how you present it to administration. But this program has got to have not only the support of the administration, but the direct involvement of the administration. That's key, that's crucial, and you're simply not going to maximize your effort. To me, that's one of the key fidelity checks of this. You have to have a supportive administration who is absolutely, literally at the table every week when we meet.
Yes, we agree. Thank you for your time and your input.
Thank you.